Welcome back. This is News in Focus. My name is Faraz Patel. Jazakallah so much for staying with us. Now, today marks 100 days since the formation of the Government of National Unity. We, of course, saw many different political parties joining the African National Congress to go ahead and take up some of the cabinet positions. Now, there have been, of course, differences, two of them being the Bella Bill, which was signed by the President, and of course the National Health Insurance Bill, which is yet to take a full effect. But other than that, the markets have reacted quite well. The Rand sitting just above that 17 Rand mark, and there seems to be a sense of more investor confidence occurring within the country, with the Trade and Industry Minister and Treasury going ahead and asking foreign investors that, look here, South Africa is the place for you to bring your money. But from a political perspective, how has this turned out? Can this be a long-term effect going forward? Joining me now, I'd like to welcome political analyst and no stranger to us here at Hilaal TV, Dr Levy Ndou. Dr. Ndou, good day. Thank you so much for joining us on News in Focus.
Good day to you, Faraz. Good day to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Dr. Ndou, I think from a political perspective, we yet to see what this Government of National Unity is going to be. We've seen the markets react quite positively, but from a political perspective, this 100 days, how have you seen it so far?
I have observed cooperation amongst different political parties, and I've been able to observe that with all the differences that are there, our own political parties and leaders have the potential to be able to put their differences aside and focus on what is important for South Africans. I've also observed that even though there are major differences in terms of policy direction, in terms of priorities by different political parties, they can be able to bring what is common to them and therefore to chart the way forward for South Africa. I've also observed that in the midst of the opportunities presented for different leaders to be able to come together, we still have some who are not interested in working with other political parties, and that is why, even though they've been invited to be participants in the GNU, they've opted to be outside of the GNU so that they can be able to do or focus on their programs outside the GNU. And that is one thing that we might not only just see it negatively, we should also see that as a character that defines other political parties.
Dr. Ndou, I want to touch on the Bella Bill and the National Health Insurance. Now, many parties within the Government of National Unity have voiced their of course, opposition to it, the Democratic Alliance being one of them, the Inkatha Freedom Party being one of them. How has President Cyril Ramaphosa managed to supposedly navigate his way through this as the head of state? I ask this, of course, because during the Bella Bill signing, his Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Kwagube, was not present at that ceremony. Cause for concern, or is it just that he has the prerogative as the president, and look, when he signs these legislations into law, it's something that he has within him as the head of state?
We need to look at the role of the president in the context of the separation of powers in South Africa. That the Bella Bill, before it's signed by the president, all the parliamentary processes have to be satisfied, and the president has to sign, having noted that indeed a lot of work has been done. And you'd agree with me that all the parliamentary processes has followed. The president has no other option. The president has to sign what has been satisfied in Parliament. But I think what the President decided to do was to say there are other issues that are being raised, and indeed by parties, that are very central in the GNU. And what he did was to proceed with the signing of the bill and giving them a 90 days opportunity to go and sort their differences. And I think the President decided to use his language very, very carefully, because he said, you need to be able to go out and find one another and bring solutions. But at this stage, I have signed as the President of the Republic, and give me solutions, and not only just differences. The absence of the Minister of Basic Education should be interpreted, in my view, in many different ways. Some will see this as a defiance of what she does not agree with, and indeed what a party does not agree with. Some could see this as a bold statement to say, even though I'm the minister in the GNU, I've got my standpoint that should be recognized. But more importantly, she was able to indicate that she's going to implement the Bella Bill. But my view is that by not attending the signing of the Bella Bill, the minister could have put herself in a very difficult position, because the unions that were there, school governing bodies that were represented, and many other stakeholders might watch her moves very, very closely, and it might create a situation where their relations might negatively be affected.
Dr. Ndou, what's a certainty is, and I'm going to take two positions, of course, within the executive. The one is, of course, both within the economics cluster, and that's the Department of Trade and Industry and Treasury, where there seems to be a good performance within the economy. All the measures are being taken place to make sure that, the rand performs as strong as it could. And the other one is that of the Public Works Ministry, where there seems to be a huge support for Minister Dean McPherson to try and go ahead and take on the so-called construction mafia. There seems to be a united voice on that. That could be seen in many ways as some sort of positive aspect within this first 100 days of the Government of National Unity.
The response to the Government of National Unity is actually being observed, and indeed by many of us. Of course, there could have been some negativities on the Government of National Unity for those who thought it might not work. But the fortunate part is that there is a lot of energy that one has observed from the different departments. And indeed, I'm happy that we talk about the economic cluster. The economy appears to be performing very, very well, and most South Africans are smiling, specifically on the matters relating to the interest rates. And my view is that when there is stability in the country, and where there is a clear indication of certainty on the part of business, you have got a situation where the economy will have to grow. And indeed, you need the buy-in of the public sector. You need the buy-in of ordinary citizens for the economy to be able to perform in a manner that the South African economy is performing. And my view is that we need to give this a thumbs up to those that are given the responsibility to run government, because the positive results are available for all of us to see.
Dr. Ndou, from the crime perspective, of course, there's so many challenges that's going to be coming there. There again seems to be some sort of a united voice, and what we see is, of course, the head of the Police Portfolio Committee being Ian Cameron, and then you've got Minister Senzo Mchunu taking up the position as heading up that portfolio. That's going to be quite a challenge for this Government of National Unity, given the high crime rates and given the fact that police are now caught between a rock and a hard place of whether to use force or whether to abide by some sort of constitutional mandate of treating criminals as normal citizens who are actually going ahead and taking the lives of so many people and acting in a reckless way. There lies a challenge, doesn't it, Doctor, that the crime perspective of this country is going to take a hard look at.
Indeed. My view is that you need a strong ministry that should be able to deal with matters of criminality, and at the same time you need accountability and indeed the rights that citizens have. If you look at the South African population, the majority of the South African citizens are law-abiding people. And my expectation is that if you have communities and ordinary citizens coming together and work with the law enforcement agencies, the crisis that we face that relates to crime can easily be dealt with. And of course, issues of accountability on the part of parliamentarians and on the part of members of the opposition, and indeed those that are in the GNU, could provide positive results in the fight against crime. We have a very strong government that is speaking in one voice, and it's saying, this is the time to deal with the construction mafia. And indeed, we are starting to see results coming in. We are starting to see gangs that are being dismantled in many parts of our country, like in KwaZulu-Natal and in other areas. And that says to me that it appears as if a new strategy has been developed that is there to fight against criminality. And I think as ordinary citizens, all that we need to do is to provide support to the department, and where necessary, provide the most needed information so that we should be able to fight crime together, both the government and the ordinary citizens.
Dr. Ndou, always a pleasure having you on your News in Focus on Hilaal TV. Much appreciated.
You're always welcome. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Dr. Levy Ndou, our political analyst, they're just breaking on 100 days of the government of national unity. Well, one thing is for certain, there's no stopping the Springboks because they just keep on winning. Rugby championship winners and world champions. Good times, we hope, for South Africa going ahead. But what's also going to be happening this week is snow. Well, we saw what happened last week. The snow is back again. We're asking the question, what is it that is causing this to happen? Is South Africa now deep into the climate change that has been spoken about so many years? I'm going to be speaking to Professor Guy Midgley from the University of Stellenbosch. Do stay tuned.